So this person is asking, from strictly from a tax standpoint, isn't it more difficult to lower your taxable income as a content creator because of the low cost of doing business? And yes, there is a very low overhead to doing what we do, but there are also other things that get to become work expenses. So let me explain what I mean by this. From a content creation standpoint, there's no overhead. I need a phone. I need an internet connection. I need free access to social media. And I need content to talk about, right? I mean, I don't need a factory or a warehouse. I don't need trucks, and there's no fuel. You know what I mean? I don't need overweight permits for hauling the truckloads that we currently haul with our other company. You're right. There is no overhead. So what becomes your overhead? Well, like I said, it becomes your fuel, or not your fuel, your internet. Becomes your overhead, your phone. If I buy a computer, that becomes a work-related expense. Things like pens and pencils and computer paper and things like the office supplies, right? Which is really not a lot. It doesn't add up to a lot. Computer's a big one, obviously. But because I make my money doing content creation, things that go into creating that content also count as a work expense. Now, I don't know the tax law. So what I do is I give all of my receipts to my accountant every year, and she sits down and figures out what percentage of what can be written off properly for what I made. And she knows all of those numbers and is damn good at it. But for example, we went on an Alaskan cruise in August. I made content every day on the cruise. I made content from all of the different stops that we went to and all over the ship. So I gave her the receipts, or I will give her the receipts for the cruise, the airfare to and from Vancouver, the hotel in Vancouver that we stayed in the night before the cruise, the cost of any of the excursions, and she will take a percentage that she does the calculation on of that cruise and write that off. The year before, we went to Jamaica. We went to Sandals Resort. And so airfare, the car ride to and from the hotel, the resort, the excursions we went on in Jamaica. I gave her all the receipts. She writes off a percentage of all of that because all of that goes into content creation. If I go downtown into the city and do content with people down in the city, then the things that I'm doing, the parking that I go downtown on, I did content from a Cubs game and give her the fucking Cubs tickets. Whatever she can figure out within the legal limits through the tax code that currently exists, she does. So it is hard to come up with business expenses until you think about things that you need for business. You know, if I go to buy a new phone stand, that gets written off. I need staples for my stapler, that's office supplies, that gets written off. Now, all of that stuff can be factored in, and all of that stuff can be calculated in. The traveling, like I said, the computer access, like I said, and then to a certain point, your legal expenses that you need to pay your lawyers, your accounting expenses that you need to pay your accountants, all of that, your banking expenses, all of that gets factored into workable expenses as well, and it all becomes part of your overhead. So that, from a taxable standpoint, that's how you do it from a social media standpoint. It's part of doing business. You know, we went down to Houston and we went and visited the Houston Space Center, and I did content from down there. Here are the receipts. Here's the airfare. Here's the hotel we stayed in. Here's all of it, and she figures that out, and then a percentage of that gets to be written off. So, you know, when you're in business doing trucking, you got fuel, you got permits, you got plates. When you're in business doing social media content, you have similar expenses. They're just in different areas that you wouldn't normally think of.